Hi everybody, my name is Kaylee. I am a fiber artist and quilter in North Carolina, and I am so happy that you are here. Welcome to my channel. If you haven't been here before, here you will find all kinds of videos, mostly artist studio vlogs with a mix of just lifestyle stuff. A lot of quilting is happening, a lot of sewing is happening, some plant stuff is usually happening. I dabble in a lot of different hobbies and things, and I try to document, all of it as much as possible. So welcome if you haven't been here, welcome back. I really appreciate you being here. Today is November 1st, which means it is the start of the holiday season. Halloween was yesterday. And with the start of the holiday season happening now, I want to get a jump start on things. And something that I've had in my mind for the last few weeks is I know that I've been wanting to make some kind of quilted gift that I can pass out to people, something that is sustainable, meaning it's using scraps that I have, something that I can hand out as like a little token of my appreciation for the people around me. Last year, I made some quilted ornaments and they were each hand sewn one by one. I only made maybe half a dozen or so for some really close people in my life, but I definitely want to do something in a way that's sustainable, efficient, something I can make a lot of so I can pass the love all around. I've seen this idea kind of popping around the internet, but I'm gonna kind of do it in a way that makes sense for me. So it's part using an idea that I've seen before, but also twerking it a little bit to fit my needs. We are going to make some scrappy quilted ornaments today. When I say scrappy, I mean I have been collecting little tiny pieces of fabric scraps for the last year or so, and we're finally going to put them to good use. I am sure that if you quilt or sew anything, you have some sort of scraps that are just collecting dust or sitting in a box somewhere, and you're just wondering what you can use them for. And I wanted to get this video out in case anybody else wanted to use this as well as a reference for making their own quilted ornaments, or anything quilted really. I mean, you could probably transfer this into a whole bunch of different variety of things, so don't feel bound by just doing ornaments. I'm sure you can do all kinds of fun stuff with this template. So the way that we're doing this is we're utilizing the scraps as kind of like a base layer and then covering them with a mesh on top and then quilting all of it together. So it's like a big sandwich, it's quilted together, and then I want to do a sort of binding on them so they look like little baby quilts. That is the kind of rough plan. It's a very rough plan, but I think we can do it. I'm gonna show you what the final result is right here. I have not made them yet, of course, but I have an idea in my head and I hope we can manifest it. I have not tried this yet. I haven't done like a trial run or anything. I'm just like diving in head first, but I have seen some variants of this, so I think what I'm trying to achieve is totally in the realm of possibility. And I'm gonna go ahead and switch the angle here so we can get looking at my scraps and I can kind of show you what I'm thinking in my brain of how we're gonna do this. So I realize this intro is a little bit abstract and maybe not the best manifestation or visual representation of what we're doing today, but hopefully this final result clip that I showed you previously will give you a good idea of what we're trying to go for. And yeah, let's go ahead and switch up this angle so we can take a look at my scraps and get started on this project and start building our little collage of fabric scraps to turn into little art quilts. All right, hi, it's me. Different angle unlocked. So we are on my little sewing desk here where you can do the overhead angle, and I'm just gonna show you what you need to get started, or what I think we need to get started. Let me emphasize. First, I have my wool ironing mat here. If you don't have one of these, you need to get one. It's kind of like a mobile ironing board. I mean, I use this thing like every time I sew, so I'd strongly recommend getting one of these. I also have my mini iron to go with it because, as you can imagine, these scraps are not going to be very flat. They're going to be all kinds of crinkled and creased and all that kind of stuff. So we need to be able to flatten them out as we work just to make our lives a lot easier. So I have my little iron plugged in, it's going, and it's just on my desk here. Also, we are making a quilt sandwich, as you could probably guess. So we're gonna need a base to work on. This is what I chose. You can use anything, you can use a larger scrap, whatever. I just wanted it to be the size of my wool piece here, and then I also wanted it to have a little bit of a print on it, just in case some of the scraps didn't cover all of it, or they moved, or what have you. Like, anything can happen with this process, I think. So I just wanted to have a background fabric that if it peeked through all the scraps, that it would still look intentional. It would just have something to it, I think is what I'm trying to say. But you can use literally whatever you want. And then perhaps the most important part is that we need a lot of scraps. So this is what I have. This is like my bin of itty bitty scraps that I didn't really know what to do with, but I didn't have the wherewithal or heart to throw away. This is probably when I first started sewing, but yeah, so this is all from like a year and a half ago. And then I started this big jar on my desk. It's just sitting on my desk where I do a lot of my hand sewing, and this I started in the spring of this year. So this has a bunch of threads, little tiny scraps, just all kinds of stuff, and it was an olive jar. That's what we'll be working with today. But other couple things that we need are some pins. We don't need that till later. You need a mesh fabric. I'm not really sure which one I'll be using yet, so that's why I don't have anything to show you. And then you need a pair of scissors just in case we need to trim some of these scraps to be itty bitty. But yeah, like I said, basically what we're doing here is we're gonna be laying a whole bunch of scraps on this sheet of fabric, and then we're gonna be covering it in mesh and then quilting it all together. So all of those little scraps will be contained within these layers. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna start by like dumping some stuff out here and just sorting through it. I mean, there's not really like a method to this madness. It's just, it's all gotta happen at some point. So why not just dive in and do it? One thing I do know I wanna do though is separate. I'm not gonna like pick every little thread out, obviously, but the larger bundles of thread, I do want to kind of parse out and maybe sprinkle them on top as like a final finishing touch. Some confetti sprinkles, so to speak. A lot of these scraps in this jar come from my 1-year anniversary quilt that I made in the spring. I'll go ahead and put an image of that here. I made it in a quilting class I took, and it was all about my first year of marriage with Emily and all the memories and special things about our relationship. So going through all these fun colors is really bringing me back to that. I'm not gonna like think about it. I'm just gonna move this into this bin over here just so we have some working space. More thread. All right, I think this is good enough. As you can imagine, it is gonna be very challenging to get every little piece of scrap completely flat. So I'm not aiming for perfection here, but I just wanna flatten some things out so it's not super textured, because when we quilt, we want it to be, you know, as flat as possible, I think, just to make it a little bit easier on my sewing machine. I'm working with a vintage, very old sewing machine, so the less work that I have to put her through, the better, honestly. Cut it up so it's a little bit smaller here. And really just assembling these in a way that makes sense for me. I don't have to think too much about. I just want it to be scrappy and flat. And these fabrics are all different kinds of material. Some of them are polyester, some of them are cotton. It really is just kind of like a crapshoot as to what we are working with, but I think it'll all be okay in the end. And again, as I lay down, I'm just kind of ironing a little bit as I go, just to keep everything flat. Okay, so I think I'm happy with this. Last thing I'm gonna do before I cover it with a mesh top is I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle some of these little threads. I definitely have more than I need, which I'm coming to find with every part of this process, because I feel like I used a lot of scraps, but I still have so many. The pile feels bigger than it did before for some reason. So I'm just gonna lay some other things down too while I lay these little fabric guys down, because I have them, why not use them, you know? It's hard to know when to stop. And I'm also one of those people that's like under the more is more mentality, not less is more, so Just keep that in mind if you're like me. Now I'm gonna lay some threads down. These are just thread scraps of projects past, and I think they would create some cool visual interest. Want some like fun colors too. These are all mostly like mints and pinks and purples, so it kind of fits the theme. I just love like the energy of the color of this. I think it's really fun. And just these are the colors I was working with for that marriage quilt, which I think is cool to kind of see it in like a more abstract way. All right, next what I need to do is I need to decide what overlay we want to do on top of this, and I'm not sure. So let me go ahead and pick some options and we will look at them together. I picked out some fabrics. I also want to mention this process took me about 25 minutes to do, and I'm filming, so if you weren't filming, it would probably be a lot faster, but I have 3 different options for like a see-through gauzy material. And again, this gauzy material is to kind of secure everything in and down, and also we want it to be transparent so we can still see everything. Like I said, I have 3 options. I have this hot pink, I have this like seafoam green kind of color, and then I have this shirt that is like a softer kind of lighter pink, and it has 2 layers, but the top layer is fairly transparent, as you can see. So I'm just gonna kind of like lay these down and see what I vibe with. See, this one is, I thought this was gonna be the most transparent one, but it's really not. It really covers up a lot of that. So, okay, well that makes me a little nervous that the other ones are also gonna be super opaque. Okay, so there's this one, this like light green. You can definitely still see that through. Nice. And then let's see this like hot pink one. Ooh, I think this one might be the ticket. Yeah, I think this is the ticket. I think the green one is nice, but it kind of like mutes all the colors, because most of these colors in here are pink, and pink and green are more opposite on the color spectrum. So I think we're gonna go with this one. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna like haphazardly cut this just so it's approximately the same size as our surface here. And then we're gonna pin everything, and we're gonna pin like crazy to secure everything down. So just give me 1 second while I cut this out. So we have this. I'm going to just very, very gently give her a little iron. This is like, this fabric is very much straight up plastic, so I don't want to melt anything, but I do want to just give her a little smooth out here just to help her a bit. And now here's the part where I'm a little nervous. We have to pin this like there is no tomorrow, because we need to transfer this whole thing over to my sewing machine, and we need to run it through my sewing machine a ton of times to quilt everything down. So we need to pin this like, I mean, I assume we need to pin this like there's literally no tomorrow. And as I'm pinning this, I'm trying to flatten out this piece of mesh just so it's not super bumpy lumpy. And I'm also noticing that it's a little tricky to pin through all the pieces of fabric all the way to the bottom. It's not like hard, it's just, you kind of have to dig in there just to make sure that you got them all. So technically this is probably going to be like double quilted, because we're doing this piece and then I'm going to do batting and a backing with binding, so it's going to be like double quilted, but I'm sure there are ways you could figure this out where you didn't have to do that. But I have like a very certain look I'm trying to achieve, like I can see it in my mind's eye, so that's why I am going through this method. So because technically I guess this sheet down here could be your batting, but I'm gonna do a cotton batting below it, in between my backing and this top layer here. Okay, I am back from a different angle because my camera battery decided to knock out on me. It actually didn't take me that long to pin this, and it's a lot more secure with that piece of fabric over it than I thought. I think I was under the impression that all of the little pieces would just like dump out everywhere, but that is not the case. It's not as delicate as I imagined it would be. So that's always nice, but let me show you it. As you can see, fairly secure, ready to go. I used every pin that I had on my magnetic pin cushion for this. So there's probably about 50 pins in here. I'm gonna switch up your angle yet again so you can see me working on my sewing machine here, but let's go ahead and get started quilting this. I have to hunch over a little bit so you can see my face, but this is the angle. This is my sewing machine. This is the first sewing machine I ever got. I got her off Craigslist from a now friend of mine here in town, and I have used her a bunch and she is still kicking and doing great. The brand is called White, and she's like a pea soup green color. I absolutely adore her. But I'm gonna tackle this in the traditional approach of quilting, where you want to start in the center and work your way out. So I'm just gonna sew a line down the center and then work my way to one edge and then work my way to the other edge once I'm finished. Let's go ahead and set up. I do have just white thread on my sewing machine right now, and I think I have a full bobbin. I'm really not sure. If you're a sewist, you know the gamble that you take, but we're just gonna go until the bobbin runs out, refill it, and move on from there. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so I got all the vertical lines down. This is what we're looking like. Everything is secured down. I do think I want to do a couple of lines going up and down. Just a few, nothing too crazy, but I think it would add a cool texture and it would just be extra security for this, because there are some pieces that are very small and didn't get into between these lines here. So I think just doing like a vertical line along the other direction would be just a secure, nice touch. We're gonna do some vertical lines and then we will be back to kind of start the assembly process of our actual ornaments. Okay, so let's go ahead and do some vertical lines. Like I said, I'm not gonna do as many, but just a few, I think, just a few. So let's go ahead and do that. this is what we're working with now. I went ahead and did all those vertical lines. I know I said I wasn't going to do very many, but I kind of just liked how it looked. But yeah, this is what we're looking like. You can still see all the fabrics below it, but it is very, very pink. I love how the little strings look, like the little threads. And then this is the back. Of course, if you used like a pink thread, these quilting lines would be probably invisible, but I just used what I had in my sewing machine, called it a day, and that's how it turned out. Now it's time to start actually making little ornaments. I don't have like a shape or like a size in mind. I'm really not sure. I think I'm just gonna go with my gut and take a little quarter out and turn it into an ornament and see how I feel about that size, and then just go from there. Yeah, let's go ahead and cut one out and start quilting it. Hey guys, it has been a day or two and Logic and I are back. I want to say hi, Logic. Hi, buddy. Hi. But anyway, we are back and I have made a couple ornaments now. Let me give you a little show and tell here. This is what we have, and I figured out the way that I would like to do the backing, the quilting, and the binding of these. So I just wanted to go ahead and give you a little demonstration on how I'm doing that. So if you decide to do these on your own, you can go ahead and follow this instruction. You can deviate from this instruction. This is just what I found I enjoy and I like the look of. So I'm gonna go ahead and give you a different angle here so we can go ahead, quilt, bind, and finish one of these ornaments together. So yeah, let's just cut to that real quick. Excuse the messy workstation. This is just the reality of things at the moment. This is how I work, which is in a mess. So if we want to take a closer look at one of these ornaments here, this is what we are working with. So you can see that I've quilted this with some embroidery thread. It's like one of my favorite parts of the quilting process. I mean, it's quilting, so I guess it makes sense that I would enjoy how that looks. And then here is the back. I think it is so important to sign your work. And even though it's just a little ornament, go ahead and sign it. So this is my little quilting signature, Kaylee Joe. And then I put the year as well. So include all those things, but as you can see, we have our little tie here. It is inside the backing of the little baby quilt here, so it's not showing. It's easy to put on your tree. You can use any kind of string, thicker thread, anything that you would like. I just have a lot of those scraps of yarn. So let's go ahead and take a look at the pieces of our baby quilt before they are actually assembled. So here's a little sandwich that I made. This is our piece of quilt top that we made from this larger section here. I've just been cutting random pieces. Some of them are bigger, some of them are smaller. It really doesn't matter. I'm going kind of just intuitively like snip with it. But this is our little sandwich piece. I have been noticing little crumbs of fabric falling out. I don't really mind that, but I guess if you're going to be more tender about it, just be delicate with these because these edges on the side are open. I have our cotton batting that we discussed previously, and then I have a scrap which I'm going to use as my backing. So this was just pulled out of my scrap bin. It's just a pink polyester blend kind of fabric. I can tell it's not cotton because it is very uncomfortable. So I'm just going to use this pink one for demonstration purposes. So first what I want to do is I want to add my signature. Or how I'm going to do that is because these pieces are so small, they're not really fitting in my smallest embroidery hoop very well, which is fine. We just have to do a little bit of a workaround. But basically what I've been doing is I take the cotton batting, take the back piece, and I'll just take one pin. I might not even take a pin every time, but for demonstration purposes, I will take a pin and I will just pin this together so it stays put, and I will just embroider on the back of it without a hoop. I wouldn't recommend just embroidering on the fabric itself because you do need a little bit more stability to get the embroidery thread or embroidery floss, whatever you're using, to, you know, lay flat and lay even. So I've just found that sewing it through the batting onto the backing works just fine for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that real quick. I'm actually gonna zoom you in. And this thread was just in my little sewing box that's off to my left here. This is just a little bit of scrap thread from something. All right, and because I'm not that great at freehand embroidering, I'm going to go ahead and just write on here. I'm gonna go ahead and just do back stitches for this. Nothing too fancy. Oopsie. And I just want to say too, if you're doing this, there's like 100 right ways to do something, especially I feel like in quilting and sewing. So if this doesn't work for you, or you have a better idea, a more efficient way of doing this, then please go ahead and do that. And you know, if you do have a more efficient way or a tip or a trick, please leave it below, because I am always learning. I'm always a student, and if there's like an easier way for me to do something, I want to know how to do it. So this is definitely not the neatest signature I've ever done, but it is sufficient. So there we go. Now we have these two pieces connected together. Go ahead and take our little quilted piece, place this on top, just like so. And I just want to make sure that it reaches the end of my embroidery here so we don't cut it off accidentally. I am just going to take a pin and pin this, so it is stable and ready for us to quilt with. I'm actually going to pin it this way. Now that we have this pinned, we're going to go ahead and do our quilting stitches first. And what these quilting stitches will do is they'll just attach the quilt top to the batting to the backing. And I am really liking just the 3 kind of lines of quilting. So this one you can see I just did 3 quilting lines just down the middle. You can get creative with this if you want. I just really like a straight quilting line, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and I think 3 would be nice on this one too. And I will say this isn't the easiest material to quilt through, because you do have like multiple layers of different textures of fabric. Like it's very dense, and then it's sewn together, so it's, you know, even more dense than it maybe would be if it was like free flowing. It's not a lot of quilting that we're doing. Like it's only 3 rows, so it is manageable in that way, but I definitely wouldn't be doing this for hours on end. You know, I plan to work on these a little bit at a time just to preserve my hand. And you can go ahead and tie this off, but I'm just gonna go ahead and sneak over to this side here. Just whoop, and then we're there. So last row of quilting, and then we're gonna go ahead and start to bind this. So she is now quilted. You can see the back here. Not the most even stitches, but it's okay. She's still cute. And then here's the top. Now what I want to do is I want to trim this excess batting, because we do not need this. So I just always fold these edges down here, the backing down, and I just give this a little haircut. Okay, now that that is done, we can go ahead and start the binding process. I'm gonna go ahead and fold this once over, and then fold over again. And this is the exact same thing I would do for any quilt that I make. It's just a folded over binding, I think is the technical term. And then I will just take a clip it, take a clip here, and clip it. And then you're gonna go ahead and start binding. So what I like to do is I like to get rid of my knot first. So I'll kind of just like do this, and then we'll tuck it away, and then the knot is gone. And I'm just gonna do like a little whip stitch. I'm not gonna go through all layers of this quilt. It's just not necessary here. But you can do whatever you like. So if I accidentally go through all 3 layers, like I just did here, not a big deal, but definitely not necessary. Okay, and then you can see how quick that is. That was real time. Next, we're gonna go for this side here, and this is our corner, so I wanna just go ahead and tackle it the same way. Give it a little fold, a little press, tuck in our corner edges here. It's kind of hard to do this. It's a little bit tricky to do this with these finger grips on, but it's still manageable. And now that I have this corner solved, I'm going to put in my tassel before I finish the rest of this edge here. And how I'm gonna do that is I'm going to grab my little ball of scrap yarn that I'm using. I'm just gonna cut a little piece, just measuring with my heart here. And I'm gonna take a piece of wax and a tapestry needle. This is just a little wax candle. This is beeswax, it can be any kind of wax. And this is a tapestry needle. It's a very large needle. I do find these handy to have. If you can see the size comparison between this one and the needle I was sewing with, you can just see it's a much bigger, longer, thicker needle. And we are going to take some wax and just coat the edge of our yarn here. And then I'm gonna go ahead and just thread my needle. And then I'm gonna go up through the center, or roughly center here. Go up and through, and then go back down again. And I'm just going through the binding here. I'm not going through the quilt. I'm gonna pull our little tail through like this. Take the needle out. And then we are gonna tie a little knot. And then we're gonna go ahead and pull our little ties so that the knot for the loop goes in the binding and it's hidden. So now I can go ahead and continue whip stitching this shut, and we have a secure little tie. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish these other two sides, and I will be back in a couple minutes and we will finish this ornament off. But now that we have this all bound together, you can see that I finished all of my corners. The back is very scrappy. The whole thing is really scrappy, but the back is a little like, it's a little bit curious to say the least, but it is all secured together. I think it looks fun. It looks great. I love all the pink on this one in particular. The last thing we're gonna do is we're just gonna tie a little knot in our little loop here, just so it is a little bit more secured in that form, and it just has a little bit more of a polished finish. It's a really small detail. Definitely not necessary, but I think it just looks a little better. And then that is your finished ornament, ready for hanging. Alrighty y'all, that is it for me. That is the end of this video. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed watching me assemble these little ornaments and maybe even feel inspired to make your own. I definitely want to do this every year. Even looking at the one that I did from last year, there's such an improvement, I think, in my sewing abilities and just my creativity with sewing and problem solving with finding something to do with these little scraps. I'm definitely going to use the rest of my quilt top that we made together on my sewing machine to just make a bunch of ornaments to give out to people. I think that would be so fun, or just seeing how they evolutionize from year to year too, like I mentioned before, is really cool. Again, I really hope you enjoyed this video. It's a little bit different of a style of video for me as opposed to like my normal vlogs. And I just thought this tutorial might be useful or helpful for somebody because we are either shopping small or making gifts this year for folks. So I really enjoyed making this, and I hope you enjoyed watching. If you are not, please subscribe. I really appreciate every subscriber that I get. I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers before the end of the year, and I think we can do it. So it would mean a lot to me if you subscribed. And if you have any comments or questions or anything like that, go ahead and leave a comment below. I would love to talk to you there. But otherwise, I will see you in the next vlog. I hope you are doing well wherever you are and taking care of yourself. And until next time, I will see you then. Thank you so much. Bye.